So now, this is not a reference to Israelites because Israelites were the circumcision. The uncircumcision, the Gentiles, are the ones that were uncircumcised in the flesh. This is talking about Gentiles in the flesh, not Gentiles according to the Spirit, but Gentiles in the flesh. See that? All right, uncircumcised. All right, now let's go to Galatians 3. All right, Galatians 3, and it reads, Galatians 3 and 14. Let's read verse 13 and 14. Galatians 3, 13 and 14. The Messiah had redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us, for it is written, cursed is everyone that hangeth on the tree, that the blessings of Abraham might come on the who? Gentiles, right? Through the Messiah Yeshua, that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith. See that? Who was he talking to? The Gauls, the Galatians, the Gomers, the Celts, the Celts, right? Ashkenaz, okay? Gentiles. Galatians 2 and 2, all right? It says, I went up by revelation, and let's start at verse 1. Then 14 years after I went up again unto Jerusalem with Barnabas, and took Titus with me also, and I went up by revelation and communicated unto them that the gospel, the good news, which I preached amongst who? The Gentiles. Who are these Gentiles? The Galatians. But probably to them which were of reputation, lest by any means I should run or had run in vain. Verse 3, but neither Titus, who was with us, being a who? Greek, was compelled to be circumcised. So who was Titus? A Greek. That's what it says in the text. Titus, who was being a Greek, neither was he compelled to be circumcised, and that because of false brethren unawares brought in, who came in privately to spy out our liberty, which we have in the Messiah, Yeshua, that they might bring us into bondage. Okay, that's a whole nother lesson. We're not even going to deal with that, right? Okay, so now let's skip down to verse 8. For he had wrought effectually in Shimon Kepha to the apostleship of the who? Circumcision, right? The same was mightily in me towards who? The Gentiles. It's not talking about Israelites in disobedience. Shaul said he was called to the Gentiles, and Shimon was called to who? The circumcision. Okay, Israelites was obeying the Most High, serving idols and all of that. The whole book, read the book of Kings, the whole chapter of Kings, right? Okay, let's go to verse 12. For before the certain came from Jacob, or James, it says in King James English, he did eat with the who? Gentiles. But when they were come, he withdrew and separated himself, fearing them which were of the circumcision. So who was Shimon Kepha eating with? The Gentiles of those that were not circumcised. Okay? So prayerfully you're getting this. Okay? Verse 14, but when I saw that they walked not uprightly according to truth of the good news, I said to Kepha before them all, if thou, being an Israelite, live after the manner of the Gentiles, and not as the Israelites, why compellest thou the Gentiles to live as do the Israelites? So these Gentile brothers and sisters are not Israelites. They are sons of Japheth. In this particular instance, the Gomerites, the Galatians, the Germans, right? the Celtic and Celtic, progenitor of the Celtic and the Celtic people. All right, now let's continue. Let's go to, did I read 14? Okay, let's go back to Corinthians. Now, Corinthian is another people that were Gentiles who Shaul was called to minister to, the Corinthians. Okay, so Corinthians, first Corinthians 12:13. For by one Spirit are we all baptized into one body, whether we be of the Israelites or Gentiles, whether we be bond or free, and have been all made to drink into one Spirit. So 13, we have Gentiles again, and in the reference it says what? Greeks. Okay. All right, so that's 1 Corinthians 12, and now let's go to 12:2. It said, you know that, okay, let me read verse 1 and 2. 1 Corinthians 12:1 and 2, and it reads as follows. Now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not have you ignorant. You know that you were Gentiles. Who's he talking to now? The Corinthians. You know that you were Gentiles carried away unto dumb idols, even as you were led. Wherefore I give you to understand that no man speaketh by the Spirit of Yah, called Yahshua, a curse, that no man can say that Yahshua is the master, but by the Ruach Kadesh. So Shaul was saying that these Gentiles were caught up, just like they are today, with dumb idols. Christmas, Janus, Sam Hain, Cupid. You know what I'm saying? Dumb idols. Okay. All right, continue. Now let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10. We're going to read 20. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 20 and 32. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 20 and 32. All right. 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 20. But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to Elohim. And I would not that you should have fellowship with devils. See, the Gentiles sacrifice to devils. See that? Israelites didn't sacrifice to devils. The Gentile, well, I take that back. We did in disobedience, but in this instance, he's talking to the sons of Japheth who sacrifice and worship Zeus, right? All right. So the Gentiles worship the devils. All right. Let's read verse 32. Give none offense neither to the Israelites, nor to the Gentiles, nor to this assembly of Elohim. Okay. All right. Now let's go backwards to 1 Corinthians 5. Okay. 1 Corinthians 5. It is reported commonly that there is fornication among you, and such fornication is not so much as named among the Gentiles, that one should have his father's wife. Who is he talking to now? These are believer Gentiles. That he said you were acting like heathen Gentiles. Not Israelites, Gentiles or Corinthians who are acting like the heathenistical Gentiles. Okay. Let's go to Romans 16 and 4. Going back. 16 and 4. All right. Who have for my life laid down their own necks, unto whom not only I give thanks, but also all the assemblies of the Gentiles. So now these are not disobedient Israelites. These are Israelites. These are Gentiles who had assemblies. Huh? Gentiles are disobedient Israelites? Not here. All right. Let's go to Romans 15, and we're going to read a few verses there. 15 and 9. Romans 15 and 9. We're going to read a few different verses sporadically there. Okay. And that the Gentiles might glorify Yah Elohim for his mercy, as it is written, for this cause I will confess to thee among the Gentiles and sing unto thy name. See that? And again, he said, rejoice, you Gentiles, with his people. So he said, you Gentiles rejoice with Yah's people. So he's saying that these Gentiles are not Yah's people. So you Gentiles worship with Yah's people, which means that you are not the same as Yah's people. You are Gentiles, sons of Yefeth. You worship with Yah's people. Okay. Worship with Yah's people. All right. Now, where is that at? Verse 9. And again say, rejoice, you Gentiles. Okay, that's verse 10. Verse 11. And again, praise Yah, all you Gentiles, and laud him, all you people. Right? Now, skip down, verse 16. That I should be the minister of Yahshua the Messiah to the who? Gentiles, ministering the good news, ministering the good news of Elohim, that the offering up of the Gentiles might be what? Acceptable, being set apart by the Ruach Kadesh. So the Gentiles are being offered, not rejected, because the teaching says that Gentiles are disobedient Israelites, is being proven false right here. 17. I have therefore whereof I may glory that Yahshua the Messiah in those things which pertain to Elohim. For I will not dare to speak of any of those things which the Messiah have not wrought by me, to make the Gentiles, watch this now, obedient by word and deed. So you're going to make the Gentiles obedient, not the disobedient Israelites. I'm going to make the disobedient Israelites obedient. I'm going to make the Gentiles, the sons of Yefeth, obedient. 25. But now I go to Jerusalem to minister unto the saints, talking about the Israelites, for it had pleased them of who? Macedonia and Achaia, to make a certain contribution for the poor saints which are at Jerusalem. So these Macedonians, Philip of Macedonia, right, is where Alexander the Greek came from, right? They are the ones that had the riches, that gave the riches. We're going to see that in a minute. They were going to give the riches that they had to the saints who are who? The Israelites. Okay. All right. Now, so that's 15 and 27. Now let's go back. We're going backwards. Now we're going to go to Romans 11. 11 and 11. Romans 11 and 11. Now, prayerfully, this is making sense because we're going backwards. So you're seeing that these Gentiles are not Israelites at all. They are sons of Yefeth who have the riches. And this chapter here is going to put the nail in the coffin. Romans 11 and 11 says, I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Elohim forbid. But rather through their fall, whose fall? Salvation, who fell? Israel fell. It fell into what? Idolatry, witchcraft, a rebellion, disobedience, all of the whole rigmarole. But he says, but rather through their fall, salvation is come unto who? The Gentiles. For to do what? To provoke them, who? Israel, who? Us, to what? Jealousy. See that? Now he's going to say, he's going to explain. I'm going to say that, I can say that myself. He's going to explain what he means. Not explain. He's going to explain what he means, right? Okay, watch what he says here. Now, if the fall of them be the riches of the world. See that? If the fall of Israel be the riches of the world, watch this now, and the diminishing of them, who? Israel, the riches of who? The Gentiles. So if you say you're a Gentile is a disobedient Israelite, where's your riches at? Well, I'm rich in the spirit, brother. That's buffoonery. He says, the diminishing of them be the riches of the Gentiles, how much more their fullness, right? All right, verse 13. For I speak to you, Gentiles. Who are you talking to? The Romans. That's the book we're in, right? Romans, right? Romans are from who? Japheth, right? He says they are who? The Gentiles. Inasmuch as I am an apostle of who? The Gentiles. I magnify mine office. If by any means, verse 14, I may provoke to emulation them which are my flesh. So these Gentiles were not his flesh, but those who are his flesh are the Israelites who have done what? Fallen, right? That I might save some of them. 15. For if the casting away of them be the reconciliation of the world, what shall be the receiving of them be but life from the dead? For the first fruit of be holy, the lump is also holy, and the root be holy, so are the branches. And if some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree was grafted in, a wild olive tree grafted in, right, among them. So you wasn't even from the olive tree. You was a wild olive tree grafted in among them, which partaketh of the root and fatness of the olive tree. So these were wild olive trees, and they were not the natural olive tree. They were what? Spliced DNA. They were genetically modified to be Israelites, or to be, I should take that back. They were genetically modified to be under the covenant of Abraham. Thou wilt say then the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in? No. Well, because of unbelief, they were broken off, and thou standest by faith. Be not high-minded, but fear, right? For Yah spared not the natural branches. Take heed lest he also spare not thee. Behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of Elohim on them which fell severity, but towards thee goodness, if thou continue in the goodness, otherwise thou shalt be cut off. So you Gentiles, if you continue, and you didn't, so time is ticking away. Only thing is holding you in power is the remnant. And once that number is reached, Satan's kingdom is coming down. And they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, then say it was Gentiles, if they abide not in unbelief, shall be grafted in, for Yah is able to graft them in again. For if thou was cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and was grafted contrary to nature, splicing of the DNA, spiritual DNA, unto a good olive tree, how much more shall these which be the natural branches, not the Gentiles, the natural branches, be grafted into their own olive tree? Okay. Now on that note, olive skin. Okay. There's only two color olives, green and black. There are no green people. So when you say a people, Israelites had an olive skin, they were black. That's all you're saying. Send me an email, askmalachi@gmail.com. Verse 25, we're going to read 25. We're going to close this one out. It says, for I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part is happened to Israel, right? Until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. See that? So blindness has happened until a number that is the fullness of the Gentiles come in to fulfill what? The prophecy that the Most High gave to who? Abraham, that I make you the father of many nations. Romans 9:24 and 30. So let's go back to Romans 9:24 and 30. I'm keeping track of the time. 9:24 and 30. Okay, 9:24 and 30. All right. Even us whom he have called, not of the Israelites only, but also of who? The Gentiles. Who are the Gentiles? The Romans. As he have also in Hosea, right? I will call them my people, which were not my people, and her beloved, which was not beloved. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said of them, you are not my people, they shall be called the children of the living Elohim. 27. For Yoshiyahu, or Isaiah, also cried concerning Israel, though the number of the children of Israel be as the sands of the sea, a remnant shall be saved. For I will finish the work and cut it short in righteousness, because of the short works will Yah make upon the earth. Right? So that's 27. 29. And as Yoshiyahu said before, except Yah of Sabaoth had left us a seed, we had been as Sodom and been made like unto Gomorrah. What shall we say then? That the Gentiles, which follow not after righteousness, have attained to righteousness, even the righteousness which is of faith. But Israel, not the Gentiles, which follow after the law of righteousness, have not obtained to the law of righteousness. So now here you got an Israelite who is following the Most High, that he's not calling them Gentiles. But he said they did what? The Israel which follow after the law of righteousness have not attained to the law of righteousness. Wherefore, because they sought it not by faith, but as it were by the works of the law, for they stumble at the stumbling stone. Interesting. As it is written, behold, I lay in Zion a stumbling stone and a rock of offense, and whosoever believe on him shall not be ashamed. Okay. That's another lesson. We don't have time to deal with that, but trust me. I sound like Donald Trump. But listen, I reassure you that this is talking about Israel who stumbled, right? Even though they were following the Most High's law, but they did it with the wrong intentions. Okay, we're going to pause there because I'm just about out of time for this session. And we will continue on the next segment with part 2 of the Gentiles, going back all the way back to the beginning of the 66 books. And with that said, may the blessings of the Most High Yah be with you and your family. Shalom, shalom, shalom.